Welcome to the Strong Youth Project, where our mission is to improve organized sport experiences for youth, parents, coaches, and other mentors via education and evidence-based practice. Welcome to the 2024, the first ever Strong Youth Conference. My name is Matt Seeley, and I'm very grateful to welcome you all here. I really appreciate you coming. My students will tell you that my Saturday mornings are sacred to me. I'm really hard to peel away from my Saturday morning run. It's what I do on Saturday morning, and I recognize you probably have other valuable things you could be doing, so I appreciate that you're here. I trust and fully expect that due to the import of the topic and the stature of our speakers this morning, that our time here will be worthwhile. I'm going to give a short introduction. I'm not going to speak to anything in depth, and then I'm going to turn you loose into 2 breakout sessions where you will hear topics in depth that are relevant to young athletes. And then after those 2 breakout sessions, we'll have the opportunity to hear from Ed Eyestone. I suspect that some of you came just to hear from Ed this morning. I'm really excited to hear from Ed this morning. I wanted to take the opportunity this morning to tell you the story of the Strong Youth Project. In the 15 minutes or so that I have, I wanted to tell you where we're coming from. The Strong Youth Project, my first memory of the Strong Youth Project is from August of 2022. My wife Kira and I were sitting at a park in Vineyard, not far from here, watching a soccer game. My son was playing soccer. It was very hot, I remember, and it was a hard-fought soccer game. And my son's team lost a game that they arguably should have won. And I watched a parent next to me stand up in disgust and toss a lawn chair backwards, and groaning, audibly declare that she was done with this team. She was tired of being frustrated by this youth soccer team. And it didn't necessarily surprise me. She'd been talking the entire game to players and officials, and I'd heard her talk previously. I'd been guilty of such behavior myself previously. I've been guilty of talking to players and officials. But at that moment, it occurred to me that something should be done about that sort of behavior. And I remember looking at Kira, and I told her, I want to do something about that. That's not helpful to young athletes. And it reminds me of a study that came out early in this calendar year that directly links poor sportsmanship from parents on the sideline to antisocial behavior in their children. And when I say antisocial behavior, I mean things like cheating and win-at-all-cost attitude. I'm sure this mother, and I'm sure the fathers I've seen display similar behavior, don't want their children cheating at all costs. I'm sure, I fully expect that they simply don't know that or they don't recognize that that behavior promotes antisocial behavior for their children. And so one of the reasons, the primary reason I decided to found the Strong Youth Project along with Justin Yee. Is Justin here? Justin's out working. There's Justin. Everyone, let's give it up for Justin real fast. Justin and I co-founded the Strong Youth Project in 2022 with the purpose of making the organized youth sport better for kids. And our first aim, as I'll tell you in a moment, is to educate people. And as I was saying about this parent and about myself, we all love our children. Coaches love the kids they coach. Athletic administrators love the athletes they serve. I'm convinced that that's why most of us are here today. It's because we want to help others. And so we want to educate people regarding science of sport. And I want to tell people that when they display poor sportsmanship on the sideline, it's harmful to their kids. And I think if we can educate folks in that way, they'll be less likely to display poor sportsmanship. I know I have been over the last 18 months as I've learned more about the negative effects of poor sportsmanship on my children. There's another soapbox I like to get on related to the Strong Youth Project, and that soapbox is early sports specialization. For years, I've had lots of conversations with coaches and administrators and parents who all love the children they serve, but they insist that kids specialize earlier and earlier in sport. And when I say specialize, I mean choose one sport at the expense of another. And often scientists who write about this topic define sports specialization as participation in a single sport for more than 8 months out of the year. I want you to ask yourself if you know any young athletes who are participating in a single sport for more than 8 months of the year. And I'll bet most of us, if not all of us, know someone who does that. Well, what does that do to children? I want people to know that when kids specialize in sport too early, they're more likely to experience musculoskeletal injury. They're more likely to experience psychological burnout. They're more likely to learn to hate the sport that they once loved. They're less likely to become physically active adults. And that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. And so one purpose of the Strong Youth Project is to educate people regarding these types of issues: poor sportsmanship, early sports specialization, rising financial costs associated with athletics, poor nutrition, poor self-esteem, poor body image. And my kids accuse me of being too negative, and they're often correct. I want to make sure that I don't forget that sport is a beautiful thing with many, many benefits. It's huge. That's why all of my kids have participated in sport. It's because there's so many benefits. Kids learn how to be emotionally resilient. They learn how to be confident. They do better in school. They're less likely to participate in risky behaviors. And of course, they're more physically fit when they participate in sport. So when I talk about issues like poor sportsmanship and early sports specialization, certainly don't conclude that I'm a hater of sport. I love sport a lot. I've experienced a lot of benefit, and I've seen my kids experience a lot of benefit. So anyway, back to 2022. I'm going to skip these details. If you want to hear more about early sports specialization, grab me in the hallway. I can talk all day about that if you want. In 2022, Justin and I formed the original Strong Youth Project team. This is the OG. I stole that term from my kids. I feel hip when I say OG. We met every week through the fall semester of 2022, and we did things like think of a name. We spent so many hours talking about what to call this thing. We finally decided on the Strong Youth Project. We formed an advisory team. I'm a big believer in science, so I went and found some of my favorite scientists who study issues that are relevant to youth and youth sports. We articulated a mission statement, which is simply put, to improve organized sport experiences for kids, first and foremost, but also for other stakeholders like coaches, parents, administrators. One reason I founded the Strong Youth Project is because I wanted my kids to eat dinner with me more frequently, and I was frustrated because they were always at practice, and it seemed unnecessary to me. So the Strong Youth Project is not just for kids, but it's for parents, coaches, and administrators, and anyone who's involved with youth sports. We founded the project ultimately to create more physically active adults, because when kids stay in sport longer, they're more likely to become physically active adults. And so that's the end game for us. I want you to remember that always. If anyone ever asks you, what's the Strong Youth Project about? It's to create physically active, mentally fit, emotionally resilient, well adults. So that's the end game for me. During the fall of 2022, we articulated 3 aims. I wanted to talk about those for just a few minutes today. We spent a lot of time in the last year creating content. I think I'm finally arriving to the point where I'm not embarrassed to refer people to our Instagram channel, of which I'm still dubious of. Social media, I'm not convinced can communicate substantive information, but my students are trying to convince me otherwise. We've created a YouTube channel and a website. I thought this morning I'd show you just a sample of what you can find on our social media.
Get on their level. Like if you have a really small youth, you want to get on their level with them so you can look them in the eyes and you just want to be like, man, I totally understand this is tough, right? This is tough. Soccer's hard. Let's go out there and all I want you to do is focus on one thing, right? I just want you to run, or I just want you to kick, right? One of the BYU athletes, our big thing with him is hunt. Like if he's feeling super anxious, we want him to hunt his shot. So he goes out hunting when we do it. And just a one simple step thing. So not focus on the whole game and all the parents and all the people and all the crap. We don't want that. We want, okay, go out and hunt your shot. Go out and run. Go out and just kick, or else just play your spot. But let them focus on one thing instead of everything at once.
So that's a sample of what you can find on our Instagram. I really wish, I hadn't thought of this, but I wish I would have known that when I checked into my first 9th grade basketball game. And Coach Felstead, I still remember, it was Roosevelt, Utah. He pulled me out. A minute later, he said, "Matt, you look like you're going to pass out." And I said, "I feel like I'm going to pass out." And it was terrible. I wish I could have had that sort of advice from Dr. Michael Larson, a sports psychologist at BYU. So the first aim is to communicate/educate. The second aim is research. I'm still a scientist at heart. Before the Strong Youth Project, I spent most of my research time in the lab studying the effects of mechanical load on knee articular cartilage health. I love that sort of thing. And so the Strong Youth Project is heavy-duty science. We want to conduct research. We just learned of a grant proposal we got yesterday. I'm really excited about that. We got a big chunk of money to do this particular experiment where we're going to collect daily indicators from high school students at Timpview and Provo High. We're going to have them report daily regarding injury factors that we know affect musculoskeletal injury for athletes. We're going to ask them to tell us what color their urine is. We're going to ask them to tell us how many hours of sleep they got. We're going to ask them to tell us how ready to practice they feel. And we're going to turn around, and we've created a report that looks just like this that we're going to give to the high school coach and the high school certified athletic trainer every day. If I was a coach and I got this report and I noticed that most of my kids were experiencing severe knee pain, I would probably pivot my planned practice that day and find something that doesn't stress the quadriceps. So we think that this sort of research will help us learn more about factors that affect musculoskeletal injury for high school kids. And I'm really excited to start on this kind of stuff. If you're a high school coach and you'd like to get in on some of this, grab me. I would also like you to get in on some of this. So aim 2 is research. Our last aim is train. My students have been out training with athletes. This video says it better than I can.
70% of young athletes drop out of youth sports by the time they're 13 years old. My name is Spencer Jones, and I work with the Strong Youth Project, an organization from Brigham Young University. The mission of the Strong Youth Project is to help young athletes, their parents, and coaches to improve the youth sports experience. I come here to the Shooter Soccer Club 3 times a week for a couple of hours each day, and I work with several groups of youth ranging from the ages of 8 to 16, and I run them through mostly footwork and speed and strength and conditioning training, ladder drills, dynamic warm-ups, stretching, plyometric box jumping, early introduction to weightlifting and resistance training. The aims of the Strong Youth Project are first to communicate evidence-based information to parents, coaches, and athletes regarding the factors that go into youth sports. Strong Youth Project's second aim is to conduct its own research regarding the factors that influence youth sports. And the third aim of the Strong Youth Project is to develop and implement training programs that are evidence-based to help young athletes.
All right, so in review, the Strong Youth Project is a new organization at BYU whose mission is to improve organized sport experience for kids. We have 3 aims. We're trying to educate people regarding evidence-based info. It's cool at the Strong Youth Project to ask for references. In fact, it would make me happy if you say, where did you learn that? Where did you hear that? What data set do you have that supports this practice? We're going to conduct our research as aim 2, and we're going to try and disseminate and deliver that research through evidence-based training programs to first local athletes, and eventually we'd love to do this digitally, long distance to lots of athletes around the world. Again, I'm so thankful you're here. I'm ecstatic about the program. Every single speaker today is excellent, I know for a fact, and I know that you'll learn a lot. We've set aside ample time for Q&A after each presentation, so please actively participate. I know the speakers are very happy to answer questions. With that, I'm going to conclude, and we'll begin our first breakout session in 15 minutes. There will be a session here in the auditorium, and there will be 2 simultaneous sessions in the classrooms that are at the end of the hallway in this direction. So again, thank you for being here.